Welcome, everyone. This is Joe Hellerstein. I'm here with Daniella Weiss and Lital
Slonim.
Slonim. Um, I'll start off with a story. When I knew that I was going to be having a conversation with you, Daniella, um, I spoke to my son about it. My son, who's 23 years old, and I said, "I'm going to be interviewing Daniella Weiss. Have you ever heard of her?" And he said, "She's a legend." And I said, "Oh, okay. I might have known that, but I was very happy to hear that he knew it."
The legend is here.
Yeah.
Whoops.
But you are considered a legend by many in the Israeli settlement movement in general. The movement, which we'll describe as that advocates settling all of the biblical land of Israel. Yes, yes. Particularly in Yudav Shomron, and eventually, or in parallel, petitioning the Israeli government to declare full sovereignty over those lands. Okay, you were the mayor of the city of Kidumim for many years, and active in Gush Emunim in its day.
Actually, the general secretary of years with the development of many new settlements on the hills, on the mountains.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, the head of Nachala settlement movement, and we are both, Lital and myself, with a few other men. We let some men
Sometimes.
intrude upon our territory. We are the Anala, the management of Nachala settlement movement.
Mm-hmm.
So this.
And the Nachala, so Lital, as you described, is the next generation of leadership.
Yes.
Right.
Even when I don't say it, people say to me, "You know that Lital will be next." So if you say so, and the others say so, so it will be. Bezrat Hashem, God willing.
And I mean, anyone who follows the settlement movement now sees that women play a very important role in that. Why do you think that's so? Why do women play such a central? I mean, we know throughout Jewish history the role that women have played in strengthening the community, strengthening the nation, both within the family and also in leadership roles. Why is that? Why do you think that's played out also in the settlement movement? The role of women.
So you are going to stumble over a very tough rock, because this in itself is a podcast. This in itself is a huge issue. I think that when saying women played an important role in Jewish history is diminishing the role.
I apologize then.
Apologies accepted. And Vital, this morning we had a conversation with another key women in our movement, in Nachala movement, with Chia Chaim. She spoke. I know she spoke with you already. And then we have Hadar, and then we have Shoshana. And the interesting thing was that I know that you heard it, that they had a meeting with the men whom we let meet us. I'm saying it jokingly, of course. And he said, "Well, the management of a whole..."
It's all women.
This is a new issue of Eviatar. What do you mean? Who else is in the maskirut? Who else? What do you mean? Why should there be another one? Three strong personalities. There you are. But I do want to be more specific about your very, very deep question. How come women are so involved in the Nachala movement, and before that in the Gush Emunim movement, and before that in the whole long route of Zionism?
And even back. If you look back, Bnot Tzlofchad, they ask for having the land. I think it's something very deep that we saw that women, through all of our history of the Jewish nation, put the land of Israel and the national issue deep in their heart, and took action and responsibility on those issues.
Exactly. So when it came to the issue of settling the hills of Samaria, Shomron, and Judea, then there is a big question, which again, we will not touch it, even though a podcast is long, but we cannot elaborate on all issues. But to conquer and to establish communities on the mountains was more difficult than on the plain, like Tel Aviv and Netanya and Hadera and the other places. For us to go to the mountains, Lital knows it because she's the next step of pioneers on the mountains. It was called the Black. People asked me when we were in Ramat Gan, before we came to the mountains, you go to those Black mountains, no light, no infrastructure, nothing. So it took a lot of courage. And well, we are in an atmosphere when personal things can be said. I say personal as if you're not going to give it any publicity. I hope you will. But, in the atmosphere of a small room, my husband said to me, Daniella, when I said to him, we are going to move to the Black Mountains, there's nothing but tents, he said to me, you take it upon yourself. You're changing the life of the family. And I change history. But it's your responsibility. He didn't take it upon himself because it was tough to move from very comfortable, civilized life, nothing. We didn't even hear the singing of birds on the bare hill on which we placed our tiny tents. Nothing. That transition was so dramatic that one had to take a lot of responsibility on his shoulders in order to do it. And Joe, you asked about why women and why.
But your husband went along with it.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not like he said, "Okay, you go and I'll stay here in Ramat Gan." I mean,
it was close to this, actually. He did stay in the beginning in Ramat Gan.
Yeah. Thank God.
Okay.
I shouldn't say, but as you said, you told me to be open, right?
Yes, of course.
You wanted to be a good.
Eventually, he got on board.
There is another chapter in between. God made him get flu. He was in bed. Man in bed,
Yeah,
a woman
it's the most
gets
pathetic
flu.
thing.
She takes something and she continues.
Right.
He was in bed, and I remember Rabbi Hanan Porat, one of the heads of the settlement
Another legend.
movement,
Yes.
another legend.
Yeah.
He and Rav Levinger, very close leaders, leading us to the mountains. Rabbi Hanan Porat to me, Daniella, let him stay in bed by himself. And I was there in a tent on the mountains with two little girls, our daughters. I said to him, you want me to be good to my husband or you want to change history? What do you say? He didn't answer because it was, it's a very difficult moral issue. Personal thing. I knew my husband will manage and he followed.
Right.
But if you ask me, and even if you don't ask me, in the course of this conversation, my husband's sacrifice was bigger than mine. Because I did exactly what I want. I wanted to be an active pioneer to do the work. And my husband said, but we do such important work. We had, like Zionists all over the world. We have our meetings. We have our declarations. We do lots of things. Yes, but you don't do the one thing. Well, can I say this? Come to Israel. Live in Israel. Be part of it. Be a pioneer. Now we have to cope with the war in the south, This is Zionism. I tell him, no, I'm not going to be a theoretical Zionist or pioneer. I will be in the tent.
And we say history repeat himself. So just 2 years ago, one of the communities, the new communities that we established called Evyatar in the Shomron Mountains. And it was after a very terrible terror action. A guy named Yuda Guetta was murdered. And in the same day, we brought few families to somewhere very close to the point that he was murdered. And we established there at Eviatar, this young Ishuv. But one of the families that came there, so her husband was at work and she was at home with the kids. And she sent him even a text message. He didn't even call. And she said, I'm in Eviatar. If you want to find me and the kids, we are here. You have food in the frigidaire. And he came in the evening to Eviatar and find out that they're moving. Today, it's beautiful community, building and develop. But when they came there, she told him, I took the tent, I have the kids with me. If you want to find us, come here. So,
history, as you said, Lital, history repeats itself, and it goes hand in hand with your question, like the role of women. It needs, Lital mentioned it's Slofchad, the five
Daughters of Slofchad.
Yeah.
daughters of Slofchad. It's devotion, it's the love. Well, in modern concepts, maybe I should be cautious with the expression, but in this sense, I'm not so modern. Just as one is devoted to his own family, children, so there is devotion to your homeland. And at Slofchad, 5 daughters were devoted to their homeland. It's the same word, private home and national home. And they couldn't do without it. I can imagine how they were speaking among themselves and saying, but what do you mean? We will not have a piece of land in our homeland? So it's love, and maybe because we give birth to children, maybe because we raise children, maybe because the responsibility of a family is on our shoulders from the start. So we have this, people say women are gentle, tender, but women are also stubborn and devoted. And once they take upon themselves to carry out a project, a family project or a national project or business project, do it relentlessly. And well, you ask us a short question, but you opened a gate for
of course.
worlds.
And Lital, your husband went along right away, or he
I met my husband actually.
He's in New York, actually. Food in the fridge. And
No, actually, we met in the Nachala movement. We have in Nachala movement new Ishuvim and new families. So we met there. He was very active.
New Yishuv and new family.
Exactly.
2 things.
Yeah.
so you were both involved?
Yeah, we were both
you
involved
met-
and we met there.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I always say, a lot of my family and friends are that nowadays everyone meets their spouse shiduchim. You put in a resume, and there's a shadchan, but that's the most natural way to meet.
We had a fight because before we got married, I established one new community, and he was involved in establishing another new community. So we had a fight. Which one will earn this young couple just getting married where we will live? So. But like Daniella said, women are stubborn. So we went to
So it wasn't between Ramat Gan and...
No, it wasn't in a empty hilltop in the Binyamin Mountain. Today we have there a nice neighborhood. It's already developed. But when we came there, we were the first family on those mountains.
Right. So Nachala is a outgrowth of the Gush Emunim movement.
Right.
Is it fair to say that?
Yeah.
And you encourage new settlements
We establish
encouragement, help finance.
Everything. We do everything, finance and all the construction, and bring the people and create the political support to this and the public support. We do everything from scratch.
And you will establish these communities before you have government approval. Is that correct?
No, every point you mention is an opening for a separate podcast.
That's my job here.
That's your job? That's going to be a series?
If you like to, if you want to continue, we can continue.
If you want, we
can set up another time.
All right. People always say you should explain. So you give us an opportunity to explain. You touched a very, very deep, a very serious issue that...
Can I just elaborate on the question a little bit?
Of course.
And this is maybe something that I would say people in the greater community, even in the Dati Lumi community, have a hard time understanding, because what we're seeing is that many of the beautiful and successful yeshuvim that have started were started without either with encouragement under the table, meaning not outright encouragement by the government, meaning certain utilities were set up with government knowledge, but there was no specific formal approval, or that they were kind of established by stubborn people that went onto a hilltop and refused to leave, and even though it was disbanded, built it up again, and then finally the government then does or does not give its approval. And what I'm trying to focus on is some people have a hard time with that. They don't understand why things are done that way. Why aren't they done in the proper way? You petition the government to start a new yishuv. The government gives a formal approval. You start the yishuv. Why are things done in this process? And let's kind of talk about that a little bit.
I think to answer on this question, we actually need to look even back in the history, because most of the places, most of the cities, of course in Yehuda and Sharon, but also if we will look back, the Zionist idea was always to create facts on the ground and then to fix all the rest. Now,
Rita, let me make life hard for you.
this is the time.
I want to make life hard for you, because you know what people accuse you and me. And I'm helping Joe for a second because I'm more in the media of the.
You are so good in your job that you put her in your side, Joe. Now I'm all by myself here.
That people ask you, your neighbors in area, my neighbors in Kedumim. Okay, the beginning of Zionism was, well, first there were the Ottoman Empire, then there were the British. So you had to to surmount
Bypass.
bypass. You had to bypass foreign rule in Eretz Israel. But Lital, now you have your own government. So why do you have to use bypasses? Convince the government. Let the government have a plan for settling Yehuda and Shomron, and it will be much more normal. You wouldn't have the clashes. It will be the normal human development of land. What is your answer to this? What's the difference? Is there a difference?
I think it's very easy to answer on this, because we are helping the government. We are not fighting against the government. I can even say it's part of unwritten agreement between the pioneers unwritten agreement between the pioneers and the government, because there is a lot of pressure on the government from all over the world. And there is some nations that has a dream to destroy the Jewish state, and they wanted to start from Yehuda and Shomron. But after the 7th of October, I think we all more understand, let's say, that the vision of the Arabs is to return back to Yerushalayim, to Haifa, to Yafo, to Tel Aviv. But when they are talking to establish Palestinian state now in Yehuda and Shomron, and there is a lot of pressure on the government, so we are helping the government to be able to deal and to stand in this pressure.
What makes you sure that had we waited maybe more patiently after the 6-day war, maybe the government would have come with a very well-established, defined plan how to develop the.
We have also video, right? So some people can watch and see.
Well, you knew what Joe will ask.
No, I didn't, but I just came from another lecture today. So this map that I'm having here, it's actually a map that Misrad HaBinui VaShikun,
Ministry of Housing,
planned to settle Yehuda and Shomron, Judea and Samaria, with 2 million Jews.
So why not wait?
The opposite.
What year is that from?
Many years. This was 10 teams of civil engineer and architect. I'm civil engineer in my specialized. Now, 10 teams of architect and civil engineer work on this plan between 1982 to 1986 and plan to settle Yehuda and Shomron with 2 million Jews. Now, why this map is so important? Because after you started in Gush Emunim movement, and so actually the government after the 6-Day War was very confused. They didn't had the courage to take a decision to decide to settle those areas, and you guys were brave enough to go and to lead. Now, after you were stubborn enough, and in 2 years you went to those mountains 8 times, then the government gave the first permission for the first new community in the Shomron. But then this plan was created because of this braveness and the pressure that was when the world saw that in 30 years we create such a historical achievement of more than 800,000 Jews that living today in Judea, Samaria, and the east of Yerushalayim, in more than 250 cities, townships, different Jewish communities. The world realized that if they will give us another 30 years like this, we will finish the job. Yehuda and Shomron will be full with Jews, and actually, the whole area will be settled.
According to the original plan, that is to say, if we sum up this complicated issue, because people do address us with a question. You asked us politely around this round table, but people, even very close friends from the settlements themselves,
but they forgot that the same communities that they living now, most of the communities in Yehuda and Shomron established exactly in this format. First of all, you go in and create facts on the ground. And then it's much easier for the government to come after and to invest more to improve the existing place than establish new one. So it's part of our mission to help the government to actually make their vision to be real.
So if I like sum up the point you made, we settlers and Gush Emunim at the time, Nachala today, we help the government carry out the will of the government. The government wants to see Jews in Shiloh. Some of the most important sites in the Bible and in Jewish history, it's the heart of our homeland. So it's Shiloh, it's Beit El. I'm not speaking about the biblical Beit El.
No, and also after the 7th of October, to have imagination that we will have Palestinian state 4 miles from Ben Gurion Airport, 11 miles from Tel Aviv. I mean, Yehuda and Shomron is center. You know, when I'm going to students to give lectures, and I'm showing them the map of Israel empty, and I'm asking them, where is Judea and Samaria? Where is Yehuda and Shomron? They're always looking somewhere up there or down there in the bottom. And then I'm showing them, Yehuda and Shomron is right here in the middle. It's only 4 miles from Ben Gurion Airport, 11 miles from Tel Aviv. Suddenly people open their eyes. Oh, we didn't know that Yehuda and Shomron is so center, it's so close. So it's something that I think after the 7th of October, most of the people realize how dangerous it can be to have a Palestinian state.
So you're mentioning now 2 aspects. One is to try to move the government in the direction that it needs to go. You're mentioning security aspect, but I thought of another possibility that maybe you would also agree with, and that's that the Jewish state, by definition, cannot ethically or morally take any actions that restrict Jewish settlement in the biblical land of Israel. That in effect, you are acting under the real mandate of the Jewish state, and not necessarily trying to sway. Can you connect to that statement at all?
Definitely. You just embarrassed me. Change colors, but it goes hand in hand with our red costumes and scarves. It's embarrassing that you have to lay the grounds for this whole meeting. And where do we start from our basic rights to the heart, to the birthplace of our nation? I'm tearing because I said we're speaking about security and pioneering and how to put facts on the ground. One could think we speak about Scotland. No, it's, as you said, Joe, it's first and foremost our heart. This is where we were born. Shechem, vayavor Avraham ba'aretz, ad mekom Shechem, ad Elon Moreh. Hebron, King David ruled Hebron 7 years before he came to Yerushalayim. That was his recruiting place. This is where he started the big kingdom. And now we come to this meeting, and you tell us, dear ladies, before you speak about security and pioneering,
remember where you came from.
I remember where you came from. So I feel sort of embarrassed.
So you think that's true? That's
the core.
That is the core of.
No
This
doubt.
is why,
Okay.
as a Jewish nation, we are here in Israel and not in Uganda or in other countries.
Madagascar.
Yeah.
One of
Now, the Yeshuvim in Gush Katif, before the settlements in Gush Katif, before the evacuation plan, were they also started in the same way by facts on the ground, or were they started in more of an official capacity?
The truth of the matter that the Labor Party was with Igal Alon and even Moshe Dayan and Rabin. They saw the value of the security value, but they also spoke in terms of tradition, history, roots, and it's the southern door of Eretz Israel. If we don't guard doors on the north, on the south, on the east, then we are in danger. And the Labor Party established the first communities there. So it does go hand in hand with the Jordan Valley settlements that were established by the Labor Party after the Six-Day War. Mm-hmm. When we entered the picture was when it had to do with the mountain ridge, where there were already Arabs there. And then to cope with the Arabs in face of so many difficulties, that brought the Labor Party to conclusions that the mountain ridge will be left for Arabs, one way and one form or another of self-rule, but the Jordan Valley as a border will be there. That is to say, if we sum up this very complicated issue, as far as the settlements in Gaza area were concerned, there were plans, and there was even a plan of the 5 fingers, so as not to let the Arabs in Gaza get strong.
And continuation.
And
they will not have any continuation.
Right?
Continuity.
So, continuity of settlements.
Yes.
And so taking this taking this spread part out of it, did exactly what we saw in Simchat Torah. Right. Taking it out became strong and hit us in the face here everywhere. But Joe, I wanted to add another point. Actually, while we were speaking, you mentioned 2 very important issues which we seemed to skip, and I think are important. When you mentioned the point of what we did and what is our role and what is the government role, and Lital answered by saying that actually the government is always given to pressures. So we had, you defined it beautifully. Well, we have it recorded, so we can see it later that we make it possible that there is an unwritten contract between the government and the pioneers. Proceed.
In closed room, this is what they are telling us. When we're meeting with ministers and Knesset members, they're telling us, go first, do it, create this. It's help us. We need you to do it. This is what they are encouraging us to do. And they're always coming when we organize events and marches and rallies. They come and they support and they're part of it. But they need us to go first.
Right, except that could possibly be a criticism of our government, that they kind of play both sides. They on the one hand, to certain elements in the international community.
Why the whole world can play so many different sides and we cannot?
But there is an argument to say that let's be upfront with everyone. This is our land.
Is it possible?
We have a right to the entire.
No,
now,
of
it's not
course.
possible. Maybe in because of the makeup of the government, you have different people, different attitudes. But
it's because of the pressures of the world. the world is unfair. Not just these days where it's so obvious the world is not fair to the Jewish state. We fight for life, but if we start, and we cannot do in one postcard everything, but from the Balfour Declaration onward, on the one hand, there was such a brave declaration. On the other hand, right away, there were voices in Britain against the Balfour Declaration. So all through Jewish history, all through, and now we're speaking specifically history of Zionism, on the one hand, there was a vote for a state, but let us remind the listeners to this meeting that when we got a state from the UN, it was without Jerusalem. So you tell me, I'm not accusing you, it's a kind of like a talk, it's not kind, it's a talk between us. I be patient and do it normally, Lital, hit right away. Why others play double games? Because this is politics, inner politics and international politics.
Look what's going on now with the war. I mean, in every war, we have refugees, and the world calling to all the other countries, be generous, accept refugees, open your gates. What's going on when we have a war? The world forbidden from the Arab to leave.
So I want to
It's all fake.
I want to make sure we touch on this point, because I think this is the most crucial point of our discussion today. Is everyone is talking now about the plan for after the war in Gaza.
Mm-hmm.
What's your plan? What's Nachala's plan?
I'm today in a mood of maps, I have all my maps.
And then let me just set up the question, because I think on October 8th or 9th, you could have found a consensus that said we need to just turn back the clock before the evacuation of Gaza from Jewish settlements, and even turn back the clock from before the Oslo Accords. And yet, as time went on, that attitude kind of slipped away. Whereas now, just as before, you were considered to be not realistic and messianic, if you talked about that. We kind of lost the attitude, and what should be the plan? You tell me what should be the plan.
We have a very clear plan for what the future of the Gaza Strip, and this is our plan: resettle Gaza. We have today in Nachala those dots that you see here. It's all communities that we are planning to establish in the Gaza Strip. This is all the Gaza Strip. We have today in Nachala more than 500 families that already registered. They are willing to go today, not tomorrow.
How many families?
500 families.
It's more than 2,000
people. And they're ready to go today in a tent without any condition, without anything. Now, we are working on this. Not only that we have those families, we are working to create the understanding and the public support to this. A month ago, we organized in Binyanei Hauma in Yerushalayim a big rally. We brought more than 6,000 people and more than 20 Knesset members and 10 ministers from the government and rabbis and different figures from all over Israel that came, and under this statement saying that now it's a time to resettle the Gaza Strip. And this is something that I want to tell you, that if immediately after the war, less people had the confidence to say it loudly. I mean, most of the people that look logically on the issue of Gaza realize that if we will not settle the Gaza Strip, nothing will prevent the Arab to do the 7th of October again. I mean, even
they say they want to do it.
Exactly, the Arabs say it. Even the some people that have different option that they're saying that let's have a military army control, right? It's also failed. We tried this. Israel tried it. Even America in Iraq, in Afghanistan. We know that it cannot hold to long term. It can be for a few years, but then it's become too complicated. So we know, if we look from history, and we need to learn from history, that there is no other way except settling the place and actually be there and drive in the road and live there. And then the army had a reason to be there. This is the only way to actually make sure that Gaza will not be such a threat on Israel anymore. This is a reason that Yehuda and Shomron today is a place that Daniella and I and you and all of us can go in private car in all the roads and feel confidence because we are there.
We use the term, Lital, that what you did today when you came here came to Modi'in from Neria. So how there is a military expression to open
a road.
A road. So we say in Yehuda and Shomron, the woman who brings at 7:00 in the morning a baby to the nursery, she opens the road for the army. And they say, Lital is there already with the baby. Fine, we know the road is open. Safe. Now the jeeps, everything, the army can continue. This is a kind of joke, right. which is true, but which is not a joke.
That hundreds of thousands of people are driving all over Yehuda and Shomron. Make Yehuda and Shomron to be an area that we can drive.
Right. Now, but that may be our perspective, but what you hear many times from other elements is that, and you heard this before, but before the evacuation, you hear it now in Dabru Shomron, the claim that because of this community of messianic people and crazy people, our army has to go there and defend them.
And now, what's happened in the 7th of October? I think people opened their eyes after the 7th of October. Right. I mean, we weren't in Gaza, and we lost much more people than what we lost when we were in Gaza. I mean, those massacres of the 7th of October, we didn't have something like this from we established the Jewish state.
When I say messianic, I mean, it's a kind of obsession.
Yes.
I mean, I can just the same say that the people who speak about the terrible threat of legal reform that the government, the right-wing government, wanted to carry out, the expressions they use about the immensity, about the size of the threat to democracy, of making a few changes in laws, in the legal reform. Mm-hmm. What's the matter with you? It sounded to me so messianic. So it's not even messianic has some religious roots. It seemed to me like some, how do we say, cut, like a sect in
a cult. A cult.
What's right. This wild? What are these wild expressions? What do you bring it for? We rely all our theories on Jewish tradition. So what's
it's a way to discredit the
it's a way. It's an unfair.
What you're pointing out is that the same way to discredit one side of the view, the side that is promoting resettlement in Gaza, can be said to the other side that is constantly chasing after a Palestinian state. That's no less messianic or ridiculous sounding than, in fact, the plan that you're proposing is a much more reasonable and the plan that makes more sense.
And it had success. So we got the Jewish state. You know, in Herzl's Alt-Neuland is a key book for the return of our nation to Zion. There is a point there which I like to quote. It makes me feel so good when I quote it, that when the two travelers meet the Jewish doctor, eye doctor, and they say, well, it's a lost case. The state of Israel, the land of Israel is so desolate, so terrible. We are going to look for another place. And then the woman who came from Russia, and a doctor, he said, no, you should go. You're not right. You should go. We're speaking the end of the 19th century. Not today. You should go. There are settlements in the Galilee. There are settlements all over. There are green fields over there. Think of Herzl at the end of the 19th century. What did Lital, when we think with what we have today, just imagine. So we know that actually the answer lies indeed in the facts on the ground that the Jews create in the homeland. This is where stems the power, the core, the energy to continue from one generation to the other.
I even can say that when people asking us what the chances of resettling Gaza now, the Gaza Strip, I'm asking back, when before establishing the Jewish state, the Negev wasn't included in our borders.
Wasn't included
in our borders at all. Now, a brave decision of pioneers to establish 11 new settlement points in the Negev changed the map, and the Negev didn't include. Now, what were their chances to take this huge area of the Negev? And we all know how it's important to us from all the aspects. I mean, we talk historically and of course, security. And what were their chances to succeed when we didn't have a state, we didn't have nothing? Today, when we are already have a strong state and we are living in Yehuda and Shomron, and people saw what will be the result if we will not be in the Gaza, I think it's only something very natural and basic to realize that this is just the next step. We are writing now the next chapter. That's all.
Except that if you tune into the press, to any of the talk shows, even on social media,
good.
you even on Channel 14, which we all love, Channel 14.
Yeah, sure.
You'll find very few people even that are advocating full resettlement of Gaza.
Joe, I have an idea. You know what? You just hit a point. Let's do a very delicate, scientific, laboratory work. I mean,
Let's do it quick.
Let's do it quick. A thorough, elaborate laboratory. But I follow. You mentioned Channel 14, which is a right-wing channel. How difficult it is for them to digest the idea of Jewish settlements in Gaza. Why do I suggest to do a quick? You suggest quick.
You don't have to do it. All you have to do is look at past shows. Even
This is my offer. It's like this. Akuma.
Crooked.
Hello.
Slanted.
That you show how it's growing.
A graph.
A graph.
Yeah.
Like this. You want it to be like this. Like this. I first was interviewed in Channel 14. And as you say, we can follow the program. Then when my turn came, and it's not the first time I'm in Channel 14, and our meeting is not the first time that I face a camera. They said, okay, there's very, very little time left, so you'll have to make your point quick. Why? I didn't say that because I used the time to say the point that the next step will be settlements in Gaza. Then, the reason I was speaking about the graph, then someone mentioned it already, that here and there we hear people speaking about the Gaza settlement. And then, as you mentioned, Lital, when we had the big rally in Binyanei Hauma,
before the rally, just to understand, before the rally that we did, there wasn't almost any mention. People were afraid, not because they don't understand it's the right thing to do, because what the world will say, what people will say, people will think we are crazy. But when people look around themselves and see that there is more people that had the courage to say it, and maybe it's not so crazy to say, so then they have this courage. When we said that we brought 6,000 people to Binyanei Hauma, this what gave the ministers and the Knesset members that would participate in this rally, this what gave them the courage to say what they believe. But when they see this public support, and when we spoke about create facts on the ground, what we are doing is exactly this. We are not only creating facts on the ground. We combine this with two very main elements. We are creating public support and political support. Now, each and every one of those three issues, creating facts on the ground, public support and political support, each and every one is important by himself. But when you combine those three together, this is what can actually create change in the policy of the government. And this is what we are aiming. We are working to bring the government to a policy, to a position that they returning back to the plan that I showed you, that the government planned to settle 2 million Jews in Yehuda and Shomron and in the Gaza Strip. We are aiming to this. How are we doing it? We're doing it through combining, create strong facts on the ground with public support and political support.
And what we did last night, let us tell Joe, till midnight. We were discussing what will be the next step to make the graph go
So here you want to
upward.
do a promo?
A
It will be a
promo.
spoiler.
Well, the
Okay.
next
It will be a
step, if I
spoiler.
could
Spoiler.
suggest, is
We do it with Joe.
the problem now is not necessarily the government and the ministers or even the Knesset members. It's the war cabinet, because as we see now, and the pressure coming off also from the international community, the strategy of the war is also dependent on what's the end strategy. If the end strategy is resettlement of Gaza, then the war is, from a layperson's perspective, needs to be fought with a different strategy. The strategy now is a strategy that some could argue is just trying to go back to October 6th.
Well,
and-
you stretch it to the very extreme.
Well, that's my job
negative.
here. I want you to respond to that and tell me,
We will.
make me allay my concerns. Tell me not to be afraid that we're not going to go back to October 6th.
Okay.
That there is a hope for another future.
So I'll take it from the. You want to come out of this meeting with more relaxation.
I want to be optimistic.
You want to be, well, we have tools, we have ways how to make it. It's a short surgery, and we make you we make you optimistic, and things change.
It's okay. You can ask my wife. I'm always optimistic.
Okay, so no need for surgery. But I take from last night meeting, we decided to carry out a huge march towards Gaza on the Day of Independence, and we chose.
This is a spoiler. You are the first
The
one.
first
I hope we're not alerting any of the
opponents.
No, but, any of the Magadnikim or the.
We will publicize this. We will bring thousands of people.
Tens
but
of
you are the
thousands.
first place we
give it publicity, because according to your very stage by stage analysis and a combination of political, public, and facts on the ground, we arouse the public. We arouse the public to support when the government sees, like it was with Eviatar, there were 50,000 people marching. When the government sees and the world sees, and when Netanyahu speaks to the camera, he has in the back of his mind things that he sees on the TV. He counts if it's Lital and Daniella marching there, brave women, kol hakavod, hooray, or who are all these people who are marching? When he speaks to Biden, Biden has his elections and his confrontation with Trump. Netanyahu also has
the democratic state.
The
We have
democratic state.
election.
All these people that we are brave women. Joe told Netanyahu already through the podcast. But what other ways does he have to measure where he is, who supports him, what the nation was? He not only Biden wants to be elected, Netanyahu wants to
but
get
he's
support.
been doing that for the past 30 years, and in some way, he's able to always bring in the vote.
That's a very good point.
He brings the vote, the vote of the right wing.
Yes, the right wing.
So it's good.
But yet he doesn't necessarily do what we would like him to do.
Oh, come on! After all this long conversation, you want all of it at once?
We'll have to reschedule a follow-on right when we're getting to the excitement.
But the thing I will say, first of all, you said how the pressure now is so hard from the cabinet, from outside, from inside. I say it's not fair to expect even from Netanyahu to stand by himself under this pressure.
Good.
And it's much easier, even to him, when there is a strong demanding from the public, it's coming from the ground. It's much easier even for him to say to his friend in the cabinet, the war cabinet, or to our friends in the world, to United States, to other countries, I cannot fight against my people. Now, even when we spoke about election, in 2015, there was a very hard election here in Israel because the left was very
It was
determined.
V15
Exactly.
with Obama's experts who came here to advise the left how to win elections.
And the left worked very hard in this year to win the election. And they even announced that day after they will elect, they will go to Ramallah to renew the negotiation of Palestinian state. And we saw how the right going down. Bibi was ahead. People calling Bibi, the magic. So in these days, he couldn't make any magic. And they went down and down. And us, as you see, Daniella Lital and our movement, we decided we need to change the atmosphere. We need to bring the ideological issue to the front, and then the right will have the strength to win election. Now, this is what we did in 2015. We organized in the Rabin Square in Tel Aviv a rally. 100,000 people we brought to this rally, including Netanyahu himself and all the heads of the right-wing parties. And this was what changed 3 days before election. You can see it. It's on the newspaper. It's on the internet. 3 days before election, and everything changed. And the only reason that it's changed because we put Eretz Israel, we put the settlement movement and the issue of this is our homeland, and we will continue to build and develop. We call this rally, we all united for Eretz Israel. We all united to build our country. And this what make change even for Netanyahu in election.
Well, I have so many more questions to ask you, and I think we did touch on a lot of the important issues, but there are more issues, and we'll have to schedule a continuation to this discussion. Unfortunately, our time is up, but I want to thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
I wish you much luck and much success.
And come visit us in the Shomron.
The key, I'll just leave you with this, the key are the brave soldiers. They seem to be on board with your plan as a whole. And we get them on board, and maybe, we can have some success and bring the ultimate redemption.
And in these days, you're making the culminating note, but as we all pray for the success of the soldiers and the release of the hostages, so every single meeting of Jews is with a prayer for the release of the hostages and the success of the IDF of Tzahal in the war.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.